What do you say? What do you know? It's the full Monte Sports Show. It is Taco Tuesday, July 13th, 2021. I am your host, Monte Perez, aka the Sports Whisperer. I want to thank everyone for tuning into our last show. We had 31 states tune in across the country watching the full Monte Sports Show live. This is our drinking game. I'm going to give you guys a round of applause. We were trending #1. As you can see right here, the Full Monty Sports Show. If you ain't first, you're left. We're throwing everything at you. And the reason why we're throwing everything at you, this is our last NBA show of the season. This is our last NBA show of the season. And again, we were #1 in the trending search. You type in Sports Show where he beat Norm Macdonald. You can see the Full Monty Sports Show there, May 30th, 2021. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Our goal is to do this 5 days a week, and we can only do that with your help. So how do you guys help us? Real simple. One is to definitely like this show, okay? Give us the thumbs up. Subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. Subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. Tell one friend. Tell one family member. Tell anyone you know about the full Monty Sports Show. We have the best guests all across the country. And this week is no exception. We're going to have the Nuts and Bolts Sports Crew come on. We have so much to talk about in the NBA. So much to talk about in the NBA. We can't wait to get them on. But first, we start each show with the good, the bad, and the ugly. This portion of the good, the bad, and the ugly is brought to you by BeamOrganics.com. Go to BeamOrganics.com. It creates the highest quality functioning supplements for better balance, performance, recovery, and sleep, and is trusted by wellness partners all over the country. Again, go to beamorganics.com and check it out. Okay, so let's get to the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's start with the good. Listen, guys, don't tell me that small markets can't compete in professional sports, okay? Because no one in the NBA, no one wanted small market Milwaukee and small market Phoenix. They wanted the Lakers or the Clippers against Brooklyn or Philadelphia. But don't tell me that small markets can't compete, because the Tampa Bay Lightning, a small market team, has now won back-to-back championships. Back-to-back championships. Who won the Super Bowl 2 years ago? The Kansas City Chiefs. Small market team. Who won the Super Bowl last year? You know who won the Super Bowl last year. I know that picture's going to annoy a lot of people, but Tom Brady. Again, small market. Congratulations to the Tampa Bay Bucks. That is a phenomenal job by them. Phenomenal job by them. Winning back-to-back Stanley Cups against the Chiefs. Remember a few years ago, 2 years ago, Tampa Bay played the LA Dodgers. So all of a sudden, Tom Brady comes to Tampa Bay, and every sport in Tampa Bay is competitive. Not just competitive, they're winning. So I don't want to hear this BS. If you're a small market, you can't compete. Okay? Anyone with the small market, just take what Tampa Bay is doing. Take what the Milwaukee Bucks are doing. Take what the Phoenix Suns are doing. Not exactly LA, Boston, or Chicago. By the way, when was the last time New York Knicks, Chicago Bulls, Boston Celtics went to an NBA Finals? So for all you small market teams, great job. Keep it coming. I love to see it. Now, ratings may not like it. NBA revenue may not like it, but I like it for the people who live in those cities. And it's showing that, yes, you can compete if you live in a small market. So that's the good. Let's get to the bad, right? We got the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, look, LeBron James warned us. LeBron James warned us about injuries. And I know Giannis has missed some injuries. Chris Paul missed injuries. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis. But how about a guy in Dario Saric who basically is their big man off the bench? He provides physicality, rebounder, use up his fouls. He's now out for the season. And he didn't even get hurt by someone contacting him. He just bent down, was going to go up, and his knee popped. I say this all the time. We just proved that it doesn't matter if you live in a big market or a small market. You could get to the finals. You could win to a Super Bowl. You could win NHL Stanley Cup. How about we forget about the money, owners? How about we cut the NBA game to about 68 games? Play 3 times a week, no back-to-back, because we're seeing so many of these injuries happen in all sports with no contact. Look, we're going to start the NFL show I do on Sunday. This is our last NBA show, but we're going to start up with these guys, and we're going to do NFL chat. But I don't think they should be going to 17 games. I don't think they should be going to 17 games. It is so physically draining and pounding in any sport. Hockey and basketball, they play too many games, guys. We're seeing superstars, role players. Everyone's getting injured. Greg makes a good point here. Small market in Florida with no personal income tax. But, Greg, we could say the same thing about your Dallas Cowboys, Dallas Mavericks. No income tax. Why aren't free agents going there? So regarding this, going back to the small market team, I agree with you, Greg. No sales tax and no state tax here in Florida, federal tax. So, I don't know what the answer is. But if you're seeing Tampa Bay do it in every sport, baseball, let's be honest. Tampa Bay is competing right now against the Boston Red Sox and the Yankees, people who have unlimited resources. The Yankees could spend $100 million like nothing. The Boston Red Sox can. The Dodgers can. So, yeah, Greg makes a great point. I always say, Florida, Texas, you're not paying taxes. When you go to Toronto, unfortunately, you got to pay two taxes. Canada and the United States. So that's a disadvantage. So that's the good, that's the bad, and I was going to leave the ugly to bring on the crew, because we're going to start about the Olympic teams. Before we get the guys on, the USA Olympic team lost to Nigeria. They lost to Australia. And I'm just going to say this, and then we're going to get the guys on. There are 2 reasons for this. One is you have a coach right now who doesn't rely on the three-point shot. Greg Popovich has said publicly he wishes the three-point shot would be outlawed. And my other thing is this. This is not a political statement. But when you see people like LeBron James last year, someone put the N-word on his garage. When you see Russell Westbrook going into Utah last year and a fan yelling racial slurs, do you want to give your all right now to the Olympics when America is so divided? Now, I know what people are going to say. They're going to say this could unite the country. We just saw in the World Cup an African-American, a black male, 19 years old, missed the penalty kick. And the racial slurs from the England fans, it's like, what are we in 1950 Mississippi all over the world now? Is this Mississippi Burning, the movie? So we're going to bring the guys on. They're going to have a bunch of different opinions as to why this Olympic, and I know it's exhibitions, but I'm going to say this. I think in the international game, because it's so heavily dominated with three-point shots, the United States, for the first time ever with Greg Popovich, is at a disadvantage coaching-wise. Let's bring on the talented crew for the last and final NBA show. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
Fantastic.
Pretty good.
Beautiful. Right. Great to see you guys.
We're going to start with you, and then we're going to go to Jeffrey, then Eddie, and you're not last. We're not saying we're saving the best for last. We're not saying, but then Randall's going to come on and give us the take. Steven, why has this team struggled in the Olympics? tryouts in the exhibition games?
Well, for one, the roster construct is not necessarily.
Steven, your volume's a little low.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit better, yeah.
All right. Well, first, the roster construct is not apt for international play compared to how other teams are built for this Olympics. Two, they're struggling with the officials because the way they officiate the international game is a 180 from how they officiate the NBA. And then three, they don't have the entire roster at their disposal at the moment, so that kind of puts them in a bind. But I just don't think the roster is adequately put together to be competitive. And George Karl made a good point on Twitter last night saying that this team is very reminiscent of the 2002 USA team that finished, I believe, in 6th place, which was an utter disappointment. So that's where they're trending at the moment.
No, that's a great point because I really think you look at this team and there's no, for old school guys, there's no Steve Nash. There's no Jason Kidd. There's no pure passer. Yes, Damian Lillard can distribute, but they're all scorers first. Jeffrey, I hate to say this, but the best playmaker on a half-court offense is Draymond Green on this team.
Ooh, boy. Well, Monty, I read a while back for the excellent Jack McCallum book, Dream Team. He talked about the 96 men's Olympic team. Basically, they had a ton of talent. They came up just totally freelancing, and they still killed everybody because, hey, we're the USA. We got the best team. And they did have the best team. Unfortunately, the teams of the World Cup and this present Olympic team seem to have the same mentality, except A, they don't have necessarily the best talent. B, the rest of the world, and keep in mind, guys, this is a big world. The U.S. is a tiny little square over here. The rest of the world has gotten a lot better, and we are here's a lot. We are every team Super Bowl. Every team wants to knock off the U.S., and our players, I don't know how much of it is easy to scapegoat Pop. As Monty said, Pop may not be quite the best guy to coach in the NBA or the Olympic team right now, but it's not all Pop's fault. These guys, how can you lose to a Nigeria team you beat by 80 2 Olympics ago?
It's great. All right, we're going to go with you, Eddie, right here. Here's what really people don't understand. Yes, the Dream Team was great, but before, during, and after the game, everyone who's playing the Dream Team was asking for autographs. You have guys right now who play in the league against these guys. They're not intimidated. And like Jeffrey just said, they're like, you know what, our basketball international is better team oriented, and that's how we're going to play, and we're going to beat you. So there's no intimidation factor here.
Definitely not. You see, when it comes to this team right now, I see there's no gritty players on the team right now. Maybe Bam, maybe Draymond Green, but as far as that goes, it's mostly scorers. And the biggest thing is that they're getting pushed around, the no calls, the touching fouls they usually get in the NBA. It's not happening in the FIBA world. It's not happening. So you look at that and you see, well, this is a bunch of players who know how to score the basketball, but they don't put the best effort out on defense, which is why they're getting outscored by Nigeria 32-18 in the third quarter, letting go of 15 threes in the game that should not be happening. And you have a coach in Greg Popovich who's now finding ways to adjust properly, hasn't been adjusted in the past couple of years. So it's going to be a struggle for USA. It really is. I'm not sure how they find a way to put the pieces together, only because I feel like this team is equipped to outscore anybody. But when it comes to stopping the opposing threat, they're not doing a good job of doing that. So Team USA is in a lot of turmoil right now.
Randall, and one of the things that really you're starting to see with international play, we talk about like someone like Luka Doncic, who's not intimidated. But one of the things that bothers me about this team is they have no rim protectors, right? Bam Adebayo is a 4. Can he block shots? Yes, but there's no intimidating factor there like a Dwight Howard or a JaVale McGee, who when you get beat is going to come and block your shot. Teams are going to get to the rim at will against these guys.
You're absolutely right. And they haven't been able to be cohesive on the defensive end at all. They have been miscommunicating on getting through screens and getting above or below the screen and letting three-pointers fly, thinking they can just win by outscoring. And that's obviously not the case. Teams have been getting better over the years, and teams, like you said, have been growing less and less intimidated of Team USA. And as they should, this team is showing their true colors and showing that they are not on the same page, and dropping 2 in a row and not being able to adjust on the fly is a huge problem. And I expect Coach Popovich to dig into these guys and to make sure that they're going to stay on the same page. And, if we go back to who is the best defenders on that team, you guys already mentioned Bam and Draymond, and then you got KD as a close third. He averaged a block and a half and a steal and a half throughout the entire playoffs, but he can't do it all on his own. And he's probably the only guy that will be able to switch onto the perimeter. And you don't really have many perimeter-oriented guys, especially with Draymond Green declining over the past couple of years. So I think Popovich can get these guys to score on a consistent level, but it just has to get down to those stops and being on the same page in terms of what your role is for this team. And that's where Popovich shines.
Yeah, Joe's saying there's no need to panic, but one of the things that's disturbing, like we said, is, back in the day, Magic Johnson wasn't a great defender, but you had Jordan, you had Pippen, you had David Robinson, you had guys who were just, and again, I'm not comparing this team to that, because that dream team had, 12 of the top 50 greatest basketball players of all time. We'll probably never see that again. But when it comes to just constructing the team, it's not just about scorers, because if that was the case, Steven, the Brooklyn Nets would be playing for the championship.
Correct. You're absolutely right on that. It's not about just having the best scorers or the most athletic players. And that is kind of a perfect segue into one other point that I wanted to make, which was the late, great Kobe Bryant in 2013. He mentioned how his upbringing in Italy, playing in Italy and France, where they just harped on fundamentals, IQ, defense, was a stark difference from the players that were in the draft with him, which is why he, played so long. Those players that he was in the draft with, they were predicated more on athleticism, and that was pretty much it. And that's kind of been what it is moving forward since Kobe came into the league. The gap in talent from the USA to the international players slowly diminished more and more. We're seeing a natural response to that at this point.
You can make the argument that the two best players in the NBA right now are Luka Doncic. I mean, I'm not saying he is Luka Doncic and Giannis Antetokounmpo. So those are two international players. So, okay, real quick, guys, we'll just give me a yes answer. Then we'll move on. Jeffrey, does the USA win the Olympic gold?
No, I think they got embarrassed at the World Cup, and they don't seem that they're not entitled to the gold medal. And people said, I know what Joe says, but they never said, oh, they're going to win the World Cup, no problem, and they just embarrassed themselves in the playoffs. And I don't know when it's going to be, but I think we have a reckoning, and if they don't clean this up, the age of American dominance could finally be coming to an end.
Yeah, that's a good point. Randall, you're up. You had another point to make?
Yes. So you got people like Patty Mills and Joe Ingles who bleed for Australia. They will do anything for their country. And same thing goes for Nigerians like Josh Okogie and Matisse Thybulle. And, all those guys are willing to play for their country. And with all the social justice and all these, equality issues going on in the United States, I would bet that a lot of these players are not willing, let's say, die for their country or, bleed for their country. Are they really willing to buy in and, use that as fuel to win for the United States of America like one Kobe Bryant would do? I don't think so. And it's hard to play for a country that is in such turmoil, but hopefully they can bring it together and use that as a symbol of playing together and overcoming things. And I think Coach Popovich will be a great representative for that as well.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because Greg Popovich has spoken out on the state of race in America and how he's ashamed. So now for him to try to rally these guys around the flag, the only thing I could say he could do is say, hey, guys, let's show them that we still are the best in the world, and let's be an example. So, Randall, do you think they win the gold?
I'm not betting on it.
Yeah, no. Okay. All right. Edwin, gold medal, yes or no?
I'm going to say yes. It will be the toughest challenge for USA to date in the past couple of years or past couple of Olympic, tournaments. But, it is still early, like Joe said. It's only 2 exhibition games. two poor showings, I will say that. But, I do believe that it takes one, adjustment from Joe Popovich to be able to change the defensive scheme, get players to put more of an effort on the defensive end, and then obviously you have the scoring that will come later on in the rounds. But, I do think that they are still the favorites, even though other teams, other countries are getting better around them. But to me, USA still has enough to pull it out of the bag.
Yeah, the gap is closed. And Stephen, finally, win the gold, yes or no?
I don't think so. Like Joe said, there's no need to panic yet, but as we all know, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah, no, there are definitely some warning signs. All right, guys, I want to do something a little bit different here. Now, some people are going to say this is just me to talk about the Atlanta Hawks, but this is not the case. I want you all to give me your postseason awards. I'll start. My MVP is going to be Trae Young, and here's why. I still believe that if Trae Young was healthy, they would be playing in the finals, not the Milwaukee Bucks. So Trae Young, to me, is my MVP. And my most improved player, think about this guy. Reggie Jackson wasn't even starting when the postseason started. He finished the postseason averaging 17 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds. He was averaging 10 points a game during the regular season. I have no idea why Patrick Beverley was starting all this time. So that's my most improved player. Jeffrey, who is your MVP and most improved player of the postseason?
Gee, I wonder who my MVP is going to be. That's kind of a tough choice. Well, obviously it's Giannis. I'm not just saying that because it's my hometown guy. He's been playing incredible last couple of games. Keep in mind, this young man, this is his first ever NBA Finals, and game one, that was kind of one to forget. But game two and game three, holy cow, he was incredible. And more importantly, he was aggressive too. Giannis is too often can settle for a three-point shot, which isn't very good at all. The mid-range jumper is necessity, but game two and game three, he is attacking the basket and helping the Bucks dominate the Suns and the Hawks.
They're dominating in the paint. That is directly on him, 100%.
Most improved. This sounds a bit strange. I say Chris Paul because finally, other than the quick COVID scare, everything's finally gone right for him. He is focused. He's contributing well to the team. His team has responded to him, and he's finally avoided the bad luck in the previous podcast. Now, I must say, I took some criticism over Chris Paul not showing up. Well, that's exactly what he has done this postseason. Game 3 was not his best, but if he can return to form back in Phoenix, he could finally win that ring.
Okay, Randall, give us your MVP and most improved.
MVP has to be Kevin Durant. He put up 34 points per game on 40 minutes per game. And with that 1.5 steals, 1.5 blocks that I mentioned, he was doing it on both ends of the floor and giving it his absolute everything. So without Kevin Durant, they wouldn't even have gone as far as they did,
So the air ball in game 7 to win it, you forgave that.
So I would like to see anybody else on the planet play 44 minutes for the past 3 games and then make a game-winning shot. Okay. I'm sure it felt like a normal shot for him. He watched it as if it was going to go in. His legs were not there, and you cannot put anybody under that amount of pressure and that much, wear and tear and expect them to have the legs at the end of the game. When Steve, I wanted to mention this a long time ago. You guys ever play Mortal Kombat or anything like that?
Yeah.
And you don't know how to play, and you just, you find one move and you mash that button, mash that button, mash that button. Steve Nash, quote, literally said, KD was our only button to push. And that's atrocious.
That's a great analogy. That's a great analogy. And we see Greg here, obviously Carolina fan shining through with Cameron Johnson. Cameron Johnson has showed up in maybe 2 games. So how is he the most improved? Totally disagree with Greg here. All right, Steven, you're up.
All right, so, all these other MVP candidates, it was real cute, their little stories and everything. But how could you not choose Chris Paul? I mean, this dude is the oldest player in the playoffs. He dropped 37 to close out the Denver Nuggets to finish the sweep. He dropped 41 to close out the Clippers. Both on the road. Both on the road. He's averaging 19 points and 9 assists. I mean, he's doing everything for the Phoenix Suns. He has this franchise in the finals. Like, I think outside of Jeff, I'm the only person that realistically thought that the Suns would be in the finals. And here they are. He's still doing his thing. He's the second best player on the floor. Sometimes he's better than Giannis for stretches. You know, it's got to be Chris Paul.
No, that's I'm not gonna. I won't argue that. And who's your most improved?
And my most improved is staying in Phoenix is DeAndre Ayton. No player in the playoffs has improved their stock more than DeAndre Ayton has. Everybody thought he would end up being the demise of the Phoenix Suns in their playoff run. And he's turned out to be their better, if not their best player in more than half of their games. He's got the toughest matchups. He's anchored the best defense in the playoffs. It's got to be DeAndre Ayton.
You know, you bring up a great point. And before Anthony Davis got hurt, he was giving him fits. I mean, he was dominating the Lakers. Drummond's not an elite defender, but the Lakers had size, and he was like the best player. And I was like, what the hell's going on with the Lakers bigs? All right, Eddie, close us out.
Chris Paul. I'm with Steven here. Chris Paul is my MVP for the playoffs. I mean, Steven took the words right out of my mouth. Really consistent throughout the playoffs, 19-8. The biggest thing for me has been his consistency. He has also proven to show up in big games. Steven mentioned the 41 points, the 37 points. In his first finals appearance, he scored 32 points. This guy knows when to turn up in big games. Chris Paul has been doing good. And I think his value as a player exceeds more than the players that were mentioned before, because I feel like with Giannis, the Bucks have enough to get past, the Hawks in the last 2 games. When it comes to other players as well too, Trae Young, the Hawks also have enough players to make a run. But I feel like with Chris Paul, he brings that extra veteran and that extra mindset that the Suns do not have when he's on the court, which is why they are out in the finals since 1993. And now for my most improved player, I would definitely stick with Reggie Jackson here. He has really evolved since Kawhi Leonard has been gone. Seriously, his offense, being able to contribute to quality minutes on the bench, off the bench, on the court as well too. And let me just say this. When it comes to Reggie Jackson, he made crucial buckets against the Jazz, crucial buckets against the Suns. But I feel like the Clippers won games that they weren't supposed to win because of Reggie Jackson. I want to talk about Paul George. I want to talk about how we knew he would be the man coming into the series when Kawhi went down, dropping at least 30 points a game. But Reggie Jackson added his 22, 24 points per game as well,
too.
So we can't forget
He played great.
Exactly.
So someone said, he's putting up better numbers than someone like a Kemba Walker. He's putting up better. He was the second leading scorer on that team in a lot of those games behind Paul George. So listen, everyone had good opinions there. Okay, I want to move to something that I don't care who you get. I don't care if you get Jesus to coach this Orlando Magic team. Okay, but Jamal Mosley has agreed to coach. Guys, this to me is just a waste of time. They don't have any talent. Are you telling me that unless Luka loves him so much and decides to go play with him and get out of Dallas, how is this a good hire? Where is the juice if you're a free agent to go to Orlando for this guy? Eddie, start with you.
So, yeah, seriously, man, this is an Orlando Magic hire. It's a very average hire. So I wasn't really, I expected this to happen, to be honest with you. Mosley coming into this, there were better candidates out there. Charles Lee, Becky Hammond, we won't get into that. But I feel like they deserved a much more better shot at being the next head coach. But now long story short, Mosley has a chance to put his imprint on the team. He did work in Denver, so he does have an opportunity to bring that kind of philosophy from Denver to Orlando, because not a big free agent market, to hopefully use his homegrown players to try and make sense and make the most out of what team he has over there. But for me, this will be a long project. Obviously, we knew that coming in, but I feel like this is a hire that it's not pushing the team in the right direction. It's just making the team stagnant at the moment. And, I talk about it being a long-term project, but is he the right man to fit for this head coaching hire? I'm not really too sure about that.
I mean, Jeffrey, the thing that bothers me the most is you want to bring free agents to Orlando, right? So you got to hire a big name. You got to hire someone that's going to – how do you sell this to your fan base when your team has battled for 7th and 8th place in the postseason for the last few years? What's sexy about this hire?
Gosh, Monty, you're right. Being a Bucks fan back in the Herb Cole era, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to diss Herb Cole, but the Bucks wouldn't even be in Wisconsin room for him. But a shortcoming was they didn't play to win. They was always for 7 or 8 seater busts. They get swept or be out in 6 every year. They would make the playoffs, which wasn't every year. And this hire by the Magic, firing Steve Clifford, who was very well respected as a head coach. No, we're not going to be in the playoff. Well, let's get rid of him. Other guy who was an assistant from the Cavs from 2010, 2014. Those were the abomination Cavs.
Yeah.
And now he was an assistant in Dallas for a 7-year stretch where they didn't win the first round a single time. And now you expect him to take your team to multiple rounds in the playoffs. As you said, Monty, what kind of free agent is going to want to sign with the Magic now? It's more than just one hiring decision that's the problem. The Magic have a complete lack of organizational commitment to long-term success, and unless that changes, this team is going nowhere.
100% dead on. Steven, they got rid of their 2 best players, right? So who's going to want to come to play? Is Orlando going to land one free agent because of their coach?
No. And I think their front office, when they decided to go their separate ways with both Vucevic and Aaron Gordon, I think they knew that they would be in a tough situation. So the partner ways with Steve Clifford was inevitable, and the underwhelming hire of a coach was inevitable too. So I feel like they kind of made a business decision going with someone who's familiar. And me personally, I feel like it's probably the best they could have done because it's not an attractive destination. It's a small market. They don't have too much talent on that team at the moment. The only thing positive that I can take out of it is that they've hired another African American coach.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But Randall he brings up a great point, Steven, here. He says this is the best they could do. We didn't see Chauncey Billups' interview for the Orlando Magic job. Penny Hardaway withdrew his name. Anyone in basketball's got to see the writing on the wall. Remember, they also got rid of Fournier, who went to Boston. So they lost their 3 top scorers. So, yes, thank goodness they hired an African-American. But, Randall, he's set up to fail.
Of course. And that's what I was kind of getting at when we spoke about this last time. Ryan Saunders was hired for the Timberwolves as a coach that had 1 year or 2 years of experience as an assistant with the Phoenix Suns. Those Phoenix Suns after the 7 seconds or less and before now. So that was just a terrible time. And it's not like he had any sort of experience coming into that. At least Mosley has way more experience than that. He has 15 years as an assistant and has actually earned his right to be a head coach. And I took a look at his interview that he did, and some people from The Athletic were able to ask him, and he gave a very generic answer, just saying he wanted to play with pace. He wanted the ball to be the main mover. He thinks the ball gives the team energy. And it's just all very cookie cutter answers. And it wasn't anything that is surprising or unexpected. But I think it's a very solid hire. And I think he's going to be able to transition these young guys into the NBA, have them learn the little things that a head coach with little experience would not know. And I think he'll be able to get these guys ahead, but I'm not sure if they'll be able to achieve.
The one thing I agree with, just with the young team and young assistant coaches like himself, not young, but assistant coaches focus on player development and how to get someone better. So maybe, he'll be able to implement that because a lot of times the head coach has so many hands in the fire, so to speak. They don't focus on individual improvement and player development. So hopefully he could do that. I wish him success. But living here in Orlando, I live in Florida. I don't even watch the Orlando Magic games. That's how boring they are. That's how boring they are. Joe's saying life got so much better when Monte. The only reason we're not talking about the Hawks is because Trae Young got injured, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, we talked about Becky Hammon. She came out this week and said that she knew she was number 2 on the Portland Trailblazer list. She knew going into the interview that she was not going to get hired. They were going to go with Chauncey Billups. Randall, let's start with you. Are we going to see a female coach in the next 2 or 3 years in the NBA?
I would love to think so. I was looking up the head coach. I believe she's for Baylor or one of the other green women's college basketball teams, but she was highly regarded, and she has a very fantastic defensive scheme. And I apologize for not remembering this name. I couldn't get it before the show started, but they would have hired her if she was willing to leave her head coaching job in college. But colleges make those head coaching jobs so desirable and so valuable in terms of monetary worth that those coaches don't want to go to the NBA where there's more media, more scrutiny, and they can just stay in their comfortable zone in college. And so when it comes to someone like Becky Hammond, I think she has a fantastic resume and has shown it as a player and as a coach and as an interim head coach. So I think her opportunity is coming within the next 2 years, but it just all comes down to who's going to be that team is going to stick their necks out and, allow the cards to fall in place.
Jeffrey, can I make the argument that Pop coaches one more year and then Becky Hammond takes over for her?
Boy, I wish. The problem is, the people don't really know this, but the San Antonio Stars were the WNBA affiliate of the Spurs, and they were very poorly managed by the Spurs and ultimately had to leave for Las Vegas. So I don't know how much of an organizational commitment there is within the Spurs for both Becky Hammond. I don't want to be presumptive. I really don't know, Monty. I wish it would be fantastic if it did. And I more than anything else, I hope that if they hire Hammond, they don't hire her for the sake of hiring a woman. They want to hire her because she's the most qualified candidate. I think she'd be the first to tell you that.
No, that's a great point. But, Stephen, that's why I say, because right now the San Antonio Spurs, Patty Mills loves her, always talking about how great she is. So maybe the best fit, because she is a woman, and you say whatever you want to say, there's going to be misogyny. There's misogyny in the referees. We don't have one woman referee in the NBA Finals. Would it be better for her to stay with San Antonio and then become the head coach of those players who know how great she is and how hard she works?
Well, yes, and my thoughts fall right in alignment with yours in regards to Becky Hammond taking over for Greg Popovich when he decides to, sail off into the sunset. I think that in alignment with the Spurs, there's continuity there. There's familiarity between her and the players. Honestly, I mean, she won the summer league championship.
Summer league, yeah.
4 seasons ago.
Yeah.
4 summers ago.
Yep.
She has a track record at her foundation for having, being a good coach, and the players in that franchise trust her. Another name that I would keep an eye out for is Dawn Staley. Players all over the league, even
Thank you,
in
Stephen.
retired, all love Dawn Staley. She has a fantastic acumen for the game. She knows how to invigorate players. She speaks on their level. It makes a lot of sense.
One of the things, I was just watching $1 Million Baby, and Clint Eastwood was talking to his fighter, and he's like, we've been waiting for a title fight for 2 or 3 years. And the fighter said, and Clint Eastwood says, well, it's one thing to get there. It's another thing to win it. If you don't get there, you'll never. Are we looking at a situation, Eddie, where if the first female coach does not make the playoffs or is not successful, it's going to be a long time coming before they hire another one? Is it that much pressure on her?
It is a lot of pressure on Becky Hammond. I will say this, the situation that Hammond goes into will determine, success overall for, whether or not a female will be considered for a head coaching job, be considered for, a nominee for even an assistant for that matter. Her situation is very key. That's why I think that she has to find a way possible to be the best fit, whether that may be in San Antonio or not. That could be a good situation for her, only because she knows the players, she knows the system, she knows the key to success over there in San Antonio. So I think that that'll be a good option after Greg Popovich leaves, because, God knows whenever he'll leave San Antonio. But I know his time is coming soon, so her chance will definitely come. But it will be. She has a lot of pressure on her hands, but I think she will succeed.
I would love to see Greg Popovich win a gold and say, guys, it's in Becky Hammond's now, and let her take over. That would be great. Speaking of assistants, Scotty Brooks just joined the Portland Trailblazer staff with Chauncey Billups. I think it's a great move for Chauncey Billups, but is this a good move for Scotty Brooks? I think a lot of times these coaches get fired, and instead of taking a step back and taking an outside look in, they rush into another job. Do you like this move for Scotty Brooks to become the assistant there?
I think it's apt for him, considering how everything went with the Wizards last season. It's a chance for him to kind of rebuild his stock if he does hope to head coach anytime in the near future. But as far as the fit, I don't know. I don't think him and Chauncey Billups have any priors as far as a relationship. So it's kind of random. It was just really kind of just out of a hat. But, I'm happy for him to have another opportunity to rebuild his resume.
Yeah, Randall, I'm all for young, inexperienced coaches. Steve Kerr did this out in Golden State. Bring together a veteran who was a head coach. But I just don't see how Brooks, I just don't see how this is not a backwards move for him.
I don't see how it's going to be helpful to him and his career personally. I think it's just going to be more helpful to Chauncey Billups. And he's going to be able to show him the ropes and, give him those little, like I mentioned before with an experienced head coach, you want to be able to have one of those guys around so that they can teach you the little day-to-day things that you might not know until you get to those day-to-days. And Scotty Brooks has been around the league for a long time, has coached some fantastic players, and it's just fallen short. And I think Chauncey Billups will be able to learn from what he has done and what he hasn't done. So I think it's more beneficial for Chauncey Billups and Brooks, collect the check, man.
Okay, Jeffrey, Portland Trailblazers, over 50 wins next year.
I say over as long as they have Damian Lillard, but I have all these rumors are out there, him going to Golden State or wherever. I don't have a crystal ball, guys. It's only so far in the future I can see. I say about a minute or two is about as good as I got. But
Listen, you're lying. You predicted the Phoenix Suns would go to the NBA Finals in our first ever NBA playoff preview show. So you do have a crystal ball a little bit.
Yeah, I do like the Blazers. I think they just needed to move on from Terry Stotts. They had kind of plateaued. But I think between with McCollum and Lillard, they just need to find, just like the Spurs could have done before it became too late. They just need to fine tune the roster. They need to incentivize Lillard to stay in Portland. And they got a new coach. They got a new assistant coach who has some good experience. I think this is a solid team. They just need to finally make that next step. It just sometimes takes a little while.
I think I would love to see someone like Paul George, a wing defender, out in Portland, because they haven't had, let's face it, Damian Lillard and CJ McCullough are undersized guards. So you need someone who could really step up and guard a point guard or a wing. Edwin, right here, taking the over-under. Who has more wins next year, Dallas or Portland?
Ooh, it's a tough one. I'm going to say Portland. Actually, yeah, I'll say Portland. I think
you sure?
Portland.
You sure?
Yeah. I'm taking Portland. Dallas scares me a little bit. See, both teams are really poor on defense, but, I think Damian Lillard is a big reason as to why I'm taking Portland. I think that also once you find the proper pieces around him to put, on the defensive end, could be like you just said before. I'm not specifically talking about Paul George, but wing defenders who can do a solid job, an average job at best, to at least get them further than they did in last postseason. So, as long as you have the core of Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, I think they'll be fine. Dallas, to me, I don't really trust the second option behind Luka. And I think that it depends on whether or not they will find that right option, whether it be Dennis Schroeder. And my personal pick would be DeMar DeRozan, probably, to give Luka a break from the ball handling and everything. But I don't really trust that team overall in terms of defense, in terms of second option.
DeMar DeRozan did a great job this year distributing the basketball and including getting his assist total up. All right, guys, we're going to switch topics here. I'm going to give you my 4 teams in the West next year, and then we'll go around the horn. Give me yours. I have the Lakers. I think the Lakers are going to make some big-time moves, and I think LeBron and AD are going to be in the best shape of their lives. LeBron is always in great shape, but I think AD learned his lesson. I have the Golden State Warriors. We're going to get to that in a minute with the trades they're going to make as my second team. Phoenix, and then in the regular season, I have Dallas. As long as Luka's healthy, they're going to win 50 games. And I think with the change in scenery and environment in the head coaching staff, I think he's going to come motivated. And I think Luka is going to be so motivated after this Olympics and losing last year. So that's my 4. Okay, Jeffrey, who do you got? Your top 4 in the West.
All right, I got the Suns, the Jazz, the Lakers, and the Clippers in that order. Although with the West, there is going to be a lot of talent between 1 all the way down to 5. And don't count out the Golden State Warriors. I know that people tend to get kind of forgotten all about them, but if Klay Thompson again returned, they still got Draymond Green, and Steph Curry was still a very competitive player. Was almost the MVP this season. So I could see just about any of the top five teams, or even 6 teams, competing for the Western Conference Championship. But I would say for now, you have to give the benefit of the doubt to the defending champion. So I would defer my judgment to the Suns until somebody knocks them off. And who knows when that could be? Because as I said, the West is always so competitive in the NBA for as long as I've been following it.
I think it's so funny that you're still holding on to that Utah Jazz bandwagon, but a lot of people are. They're a very good regular season team. All right, Steven, give us your 4.
Well, my 4, it falls kind of in alignment with Jeffrey's. I have the Phoenix Suns, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Golden State Warriors, and the Utah Jazz. Based off of continuity, the better teams start the seasons. They start their seasons great because of continuity. Jazz have more continuity than almost any other team that'll be starting next season, but they can't add anybody because they're in Utah. So they got what they got, and
they got what they got. They're going to try to add Mike Conley. We know that. Okay, Randall, give us your top 4.
I got the Warriors, the Phoenix Suns, and the Lakers as well, but I'm going to go with the Denver Nuggets with the return of Jamal Murray. Hopefully he'll be at full strength. And, they were making it past the Portland Trailblazers in 7 games with Austin Rivers. So I can't wait to see Jamal Murray back on that roster, even better than before. And, not willing to squander an opportunity and not willing to get injured again. And I can't wait for him to come back.
That's a great point. And how much better is Michael Porter going to be as the 3rd option instead of having to be the number 2 option? All right, Eddie, close us out here.
All right, so I have the Warriors, the Suns, Denver Nuggets, and 3 out of 5 Utah Jazz. I'm picking them once again. Listen, okay, starting with the Warriors. The Warriors, for me, obviously we have Klay Thompson coming back. James Wiseman showed brilliance on the court, flashes of brilliance on the court last season. He will be back. The Suns, for me, as long as you retain Chris Paul, find a way to keep him, they will have a shot at another title run. If they don't, then it plummets from there, in my opinion. The Denver Nuggets, Randall just mentioned before about Jamal Murray coming back into the fold. That will bode well for the team that has played consistent basketball throughout the past 5 years for me. They have been a top 4, top 5 team, and they will continue to do that. And the Utah Jazz, listen, I will defend this team only because you can't really discount this team from being first to now bottom 5, bottom 6. I don't really see it happening. And I think that once you find a decent defender or defenders, for that matter, to put on this team to help them with their win problem issue, then this team will be much more dominant than they are expected to be next year. So I'm going with Utah Jazz.
Joe Ingles and Bogdanovich cannot guard, and Jordan Clarkson cannot guard anybody. So they need a long defender. Okay, guys, want to talk about the East here. Okay, I got Brooklyn number 1. I got Milwaukee number 2. I got Atlanta number 3, and I got the Sixers number 4. Edwin, start back with you in the East.
Okay, so yeah, kind of have the same list here. Brooklyn, the 3-headed monster returns. The only thing that scares me is their bench depth, but hopefully they can find a way to sort that out in free agency. The Hawks under Nate McMillan, he has done good so far, actually great in that aspect. He will get back Cam Reddish into the fold more regularly. DeAndre Hunter will come back. That should bode well. He should have more weapons to use next year, and they should be dangerous next year. Giannis and the team, as long as you keep that core of Giannis, Jrue Holiday, and Middleton, I think that they have a shot to win the East as much as anybody does. That team has good depth, has good size, has good length, and it has a really gritty side to them. And this last pick, I'm not really too sure about. I don't want to pick them, but I don't really see any other team popping out from the East as it stands right now. I don't want to be biased and pick the Heat. But the 76ers, for me, they are still a favorite. Like I said before, you really can't discount number 1 seed now being a bottom 6 seed so quickly. I don't think it'll happen. But the 76ers, for me, still have Joel Embiid. I'm not sure what they will do with Ben Simmons if they find a way to trade him and get a better point guard. That could bode well for the chances of winning the East next year. But In that order, I'll definitely choose, those 4 teams.
Okay, Randall, what do we got?
Got Milwaukee, Brooklyn, Philly, of course, and then I'm going to throw in the Boston Celtics as well.
You're leaving out my Hawks?
Oh God, Monty. Yeah, don't get me started. They should have been there in the first. No, I'm just kidding. But I love Boston. I think their roster is, they have the 2 very good key pieces that people say they don't think that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can play together, but I think they absolutely can. Jaylen Brown guarding the best person on the floor, and then Jason Tatum outscoring the best person on the floor. I think it's a fantastic 1-2 punch. And as soon as they get a half decent big in there, maybe Al Horford will be able to do well this upcoming season. But if they could even upgrade from him, even just a half step up, I could see them doing some damage in the East.
They need a big, no doubt about that. Who do you got, Steven, in the East?
So I have Milwaukee, Brooklyn, the Celtics, and Monte, your Atlanta Hawks.
Thank you. I think
the ascension of Trae Young, especially under the coaching of a former point guard in Nate McMillan, and looking at the 180 that they did from right after the All-Star break to the playoffs, where they jumped from 11th to 5th, and then they made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. I can't see them doing anything less than having home court advantage for the playoffs. So they'll be in that mix in the top 4 for sure. And Trae Young might just have his first thorough MVP type season.
You won the show. You won the show today. Right now. You won the show. All right, Jeffrey, you got Milwaukee and Brooklyn, no doubt.
Yeah, I got the same teams as Monty, just in a little bit of a different order. I got the Nets, the Bucks, the Sixers, and the Hawks. And let me tell you, as the Bucks fan, seeing them fall behind 2-0 and now 2-1 makes me very sad, because I recognize that the East is getting a lot better. Philadelphia will be back.
Yeah.
Brooklyn, with they're going to be fully healthy, will be tough. So if the Bucks can't win, it might be a long time again before they can make it back.
Yeah, that's a great point. That the East is definitely getting better. All right, guys. Before we get down to the NBA Finals, 2 quick things I want to think of. I'm going to make the argument for one team to be the surprise in the East next year, and that's the Chicago Bulls with Zach LaVine. And also, there's a trade rumor going around right now. It was all over social media. The 76ers are shopping Ben Simmons. And one of the things that they said they were going to do is Ben Simmons to the Golden State Warriors for Draymond Green and Weissman. And then there'd be a third party in there because Weissman and Joel Embiid would not coexist. Listen, if you go out and get Ben Simmons, you're getting a better scorer than Draymond Green, a better rebounder. Draymond Green is 7 rebounds a game for his career, and a better assist guy. How does this move not make sense if you're the Golden State Warriors, Ed? Edwin, start us off.
It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. I do think that he would be a definite upgrade over Draymond Green. And a guy who's not really looking forward to taking his own type of shots, but that's fine because you have Steph and Clay on your side who you can pass the ball to all you want. You can find the best, sort of do what Draymond Green has been doing the past couple of years, right? This move definitely works for me. He brings the grit, he brings the defense, the rebounding. He also does bring a different kind of factor to this team. I think that he does change the pace of this offense. He will be a 2-point guard as opposed to Draymond Green being the point forward. He's trying to mesh into that role, but I think that this would be a good fit, definitely upgrade over Draymond Green for Ben Simmons.
And not just that, Randall, you seem not to like this, but you talk about Klay Thompson in his prime and now Ben Simmons, you got 2 elite wing defenders.
Yeah, honestly, it would be a decent fit. But, we can't have all that noise, okay? We need – I've dealt with Andrew Wiggins for 6 years, okay? I'll take Ben Simmons in a heartbeat. We had Gerson Rosas and Elton Brand meeting in Chicago this past week, and a Ben Simmons trade was discussed. So I think this is a pretty strong rumor, but also the fact that they're coming out and saying they're shopping him, maybe they weren't able to get a deal done. And I would assume that the Wolves would be able to do a 3-team deal to get Ben Simmons. Go back to your question. I think Ben Simmons replacing Draymond Green, it doesn't change a whole lot, I don't think. Obviously, he's a superb defender, and Draymond Green is on the decline, as I mentioned. But I just don't see a ball dominant guy like him working with a guy like Steph Curry, because Steph Curry can also push the ball in transition, and Steph Curry is the transition himself. He will pull up from anywhere in transition, and I think that kind of Ben Simmons would take away from that in a way. And I just don't see it working out the best.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with you here, and then we'll get the other two involved with Steven and Jeffrey, because one of the things we've seen is Steph Curry can play with anyone. As much as I love LeBron James needs certain guys to fit. So Steph Curry didn't mind taking a backseat to KD. Steph Curry, when he goes on the Olympic teams, when he goes to All-Star games, everyone loves playing with this guy. So, Steven, if it's not Ben Simmons, where do you see Ben Simmons ending up? Because Philadelphia wouldn't have leaked that story if they want this guy out of town. They want him out of town.
You're right about that. If it's not Golden State, which I personally do like the fit, having so many shooters and the floor space around him so that he could play small ball center. If it's not the Warriors, I would say I like his fit with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I like what they have to offer in a 2 or 3 team trade. But I will also not sleep on the Dallas Mavericks. They need a wing defender. They need another play initiator to give Luka some semblance of a break. And I can see them two meshing together. He can play the 5, whether they keep Porzingis or whether they trade him, because Porzingis he's allergic to the paint. So Ben Simmons could dwell around the basket.
Or if you put Porzingis out in Golden State, talk about just a 3-point shooting barrage. That would be insane. Greg's bringing up a good point here, Jeffrey. Golden State is also looking at Siakam, the 7th pick, and Weissman, and maybe Wiggins involved. Do you see Simmons going out west? Do you see him staying in the East?
Well, the Sixers would be pretty dumb if they traded him to another Eastern Conference team. You want him out of the picture, right? Like, if you're going to trade a guy, you don't like in baseball. You don't trade a guy to in your same division, right? Because then you're competing against him all of a sudden. So I would expect Simmons to be traded to the West. Whether there will be a good trade or not, it all depends on Simmons. An example of how this did work, like Kawhi Leonard, with the Zaza play stuck underneath him. At his time in San Antonio, he didn't seem interested at all in coming back, but he found the perfect fit in Toronto. And oh boy, it just went so well. Ben Simmons, he was terrible against the Hawks, but it's not over yet. He needs a change of scenery. He needs to be somewhere where he knows he belongs. And Golden State could be that location. We tend to criticize teams too much and executives for deals that don't work out. Players have their own free will too, right? So Simmons, if he feels comfortable in Golden State, if he works hard for improving his defense and his free throw percentage, he can succeed. If he continues to have the same poor attitude that dogged him against the Hawks, he will fail again.
Yeah, great point, guys. Go ahead.
So before you mentioned the Ben Simmons thing, you mentioned Bulls being the surprise team out east. This is kind of off topic. If they could do us all a favor and go get Lonzo Ball, I could definitely see them potentially threatening to have home court advantage.
Wow, Lonzo Ball to the Sixers, you're saying?
No, Lonzo Ball to the Bulls.
To the Bulls. Oh, yeah, with Zach LaVine. Yeah, listen, I think the Bulls are going to be very active this offseason. People still want to live and play in Chicago. It's a high-market city. I think people like their head coach. So, listen, I love Zach LaVine. I think Zach LaVine is a very underrated two-way player. He can shoot the 3. He can get to the rim. I think he's wasting his talents right now in Chicago, so I hope they can build around him. If for nothing else, I don't want to see these guys winning 60 games next year and coasting to the playoffs. So let's hope that the Eastern Conference really does some damage. When we come back, we're going to break down the NBA Finals. You're watching the full Monte Sports Show live on YouTube. Make sure to give us a thumbs up, like this particular show, and also subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel.
The Team Nuts and Bolts Sports Store is officially open. Log on to www.teamnbsmerch.com and get your t-shirts, hoodies, polos, all sizes available. Once again, log on to teamnbsmerch.com. Get yours today.
All right, guys, this portion of the show is brought to you by ECKNYC.com. That's ECKNYC.com. The smart commuter cover was designed with 40 years of riding experience and delivers a high-quality, long-lasting American product with a size and style to cover whatever two wheels you ride. As you can see right here, look at that beautiful cover right here. East Coast covers. Guys, one of you has an echo, so make sure that if you're not on screen, you just put it on mute because we can hear an echo. But again, go to ECKNYC.com and check it out. They made me this beautiful bike cover right here. It says the Full Monty Sports Show on it. I absolutely love it. Very happy with that. So go check them out. All right, Jeffrey, we're going to start with you. This is in your wheelhouse. Giannis is dominating in the paint. Just dominating. Okay? 41 and 13. He was a plus 20. Here's the problem that I have if I'm the Phoenix Suns. They can't stop him on the inside. He's not shooting the three. They lost Starkic, right? They lost their bigs. Phoenix is a finesse team, and the Milwaukee Bucks are pounding the hell out of them on the inside. How does Phoenix stop this?
Well, in order for Phoenix to stop this, I hate to be a cynic, but I got to give this straight up. They need more favorable officiating because Giannis shot 17 free throw attempts in Game 3. The Suns, as a team, shot 16 free throws. You see this all the time with a superstar. A guy blows the basket. The guy, someone swipes his arm just within the foot of him, and they call the foul. What the Suns need to do is defend the home court advantage. I expect Milwaukee to win again tomorrow. They need to get back focused again when it moves to Game 5. Continue their hot outside shooting. Make sure Giannis' teammates are diminished, so Giannis has to do it all by himself, because unless you're LeBron in his third or fourth year in Cleveland with the repeat, no player can do it all by himself. See, Bobby Portis and Drew Holiday played terribly in Phoenix. They stepped up big time in Game 3. The Suns need to shut him down, need to shut both of them down in Game 5. They have to hope Chris Middleton goes cold in the road, which very well could happen again, because Chris Middleton is a very inconsistent player. On the road, Giannis is going to get his points. Can you make sure his teammates don't do enough for his points to propel the Bucks to get that many more points than the Suns? It all comes down to Game 5 as I see it, and the Suns need to make sure to shut down Giannis' support network. Otherwise, the Bucks could steal another game.
Randall, my biggest concern right now is we've seen this before. We've seen teams take a 2-0 lead, and Milwaukee is so physically imposing and long and big. By the Game 6, my Atlanta Hawks were exhausted. Game 7, the Brooklyn Nets were exhausted. Is this a concern for you if you're Phoenix?
Yes, I think it is a concern, especially with, I'm knocking on wood. I don't wish anything on this man, but Chris Paul's injury history, you don't want to overwork the man. And Cameron Payne has been playing fantastic minutes behind him, so I don't think that's too much of an issue. But durability is going to be a main concept of this next 4 games. Next 4 games. And I believe you're right, Monty. There was that tweet that resurfaced from 2016 that predicted the 2021 NBA Finals between the Bucks and Suns ending in a Game 7 win by the Milwaukee Bucks. And I think that ties right into your theory. And I think they're still switching 1 through 5. And Brook Lopez is a coin flip on if he's going to show up defensively or not, and offensively for that matter. So
he's so soft.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you, but also he does show flashes of being.
Well, he is long. Yeah. He could get the occasional block. But, Randall, I got to be honest. I'm nervous if this goes to a Game 5 at 2-2. All the pressure is back on Phoenix. We remember in Game 5 when Phoenix was about to close out the Clippers. They played terrible. The moment was too big for them. And I'm just worried now that you have injuries to Phoenix that the Bucks are just wearing them down.
I think they are. And, you can't build the wall when Giannis is going to the line 17 times a game. And, he's just plowing into guys. You're sacrificing your body against a 7-footer that's running 20 miles an hour straight at you with his knees pointed at you too. So I don't blame him for not being able to build that wall, but is a necessity. Forcing Giannis to be a good passer is the key to success for Phoenix. And Giannis is proven not to be a good passer when he puts his head down and goes down into the lane. So what Jeffrey was trying to say in stopping the others from scoring is that you just have to stop Giannis and force him to a bad pass, and the others won't be able to score. So
okay, I agree with what you guys are saying, but Edwin, how can you stop Giannis? Because if you put Ayton on him, he's getting in foul trouble and he's being worn down. I mean, just look at the bodies here. Even for 10 minutes, Frank Kaminsky can't stop. Look at this picture right here. I picked this picture of these two. There's 4 people just watching him. Cam Johnson, Booker, let's be honest, the most physical guy they now have on their team is right there, number 99, and Jay Crowder, and he's 25 pounds lighter than Giannis.
Definitely. They don't have anybody to match up with Giannis at this point, and that's the reason why I said before that, Giannis would definitely dominate at least 30 points per game this series. For them to win this series, or for at least them to win the next couple of games, I feel as though that they have to force the likes of Chris Middleton and Holiday to continue to struggle. Right, it happened in the first 2 games combined where they weren't that great. Giannis still dominated, but that's where they found themselves in a 2-hole deficit. Last game, Middleton didn't really show up, but Holiday stepped up a little bit. Giannis obviously dominated with 40 points. That's how you can find a recipe for winning the series if you're the Suns. But if all 3 of them, or at least 2 of them, are on their game at this point, I don't really see how the Suns win this series. And this is why I say, even though that they were down 2-0, it could be the same thing as the Brooklyn Nets series where they continue to lose. The first 2 games, they lose the 5th game, a tough 5th game that I'm expecting to happen in Phoenix. Come back home, win, and then that 7th game, the decisive 7th game, they might pull it out. So, the Bucks are looking good right now.
Steven, if this game goes 6 or 7, it's over because Phoenix is a finesse team, and we saw Milwaukee do this time and time again. They just pound the hell out of you.
Well, you all are making great points in favor of Milwaukee handling their business and doing their thing in the small sample size that we have. But I'm completely on the contrary from you all at this point. I mean, when I say completely, I couldn't be more different.
God,
I had Phoenix in 5. I'm sticking with it at this moment. If it ends up going longer than that, my pick's not changing. The amount of games it takes might change, but the pick is still for me, Phoenix in 5. Not only are they a completely different team than any other team that the Milwaukee Bucks have played in the playoffs, but the system that they're playing is not predicated on one specific player. And that in turn makes everything completely different in regards to the swing from game to game. You can't just game plan for one player. You can't just game for Chris Paul coming in and killing you in the mid-range and out of pick and roll, because Devin Booker could go for 40. Cameron Payne could go for 20 off the bench. Cameron Johnson can go for 20 off the bench. DeAndre Ayton can go for 20 and 20 at any given moment. There's just a lot of different variables that come with the Phoenix Suns attack that you could just never count them out. They'll figure it out as they did against the Lakers, as they did against the Clippers when they lost game 3 after being up 2-0. And I'm hoping we'll get the same result.
Okay, listen, you bring up a good point, Jeffrey. I'm going to go back to you. When this is your biggest guy who's 2 inches, 3 inches smaller and 30 pounds, and Jay Crowder's supposed to be the physical, imposing guy, I say let Giannis go off for 40 because other guys are standing around watching 2 for 3.
Yeah, I've heard from some of the other Bucks fans. We have to sit down here. They're better off without Giannis because Giannis gets too many points. Game 2 was a perfect example of what not to do. They fed into Giannis over and over and over again, but the supporting cast did nothing, and the Bucks, they fell behind quickly and couldn't catch up. What the Bucks did in Games 5 and Game 6 against the Hawks is a better game plan. You need the whole team to contribute. And as I said before, Giannis needs his supporting cast. What we saw in Game 3 is that when Giannis is at the top of this game and he's getting the field whistle, which unfortunately he may not get in Phoenix, there's really nothing the Suns can do. What they need to do, as Randall was saying, not stop him,
manage him. That's what the Bucks did successfully, not by much, did successfully against Kevin Durant in the second round. They didn't stop him. They made sure he didn't completely take over the game. It was just enough. If the Suns can do that in Game 4 or Game 5, not stopping us, that's not possible barring an injury, God forbid. If they can manage his dominance and hold him to, say, 30 points instead of 45, they could definitely take this series.
Okay, I had Phoenix winning in 6. I'm changing my pick right now. I have the Bucks winning this series. Edwin, you had the Bucks winning. Are you sticking with it? Who wins?
Of course, I'm stuck with the Bucks, man. I said this before, and the only reason why I'm changing my pick now to Bucks in 7 is because I thought that they would find a way to steal Game 1. Phoenix obviously have the momentum, have the home crowd behind them, but I thought that the brilliance of Jrue Holiday and Middleton would carry over. And, I think that Giannis coming back from injury a little bit too soon, he did look healthy, kind of threw off the whole phase and everything and how it was working out for the two of them. But the Bucks have momentum. I think that they will win Game 4. They will tap the series. And Game 5 is a crucial one for me. If they find a way to win that, then listen, I think the series is pretty much done and dusted.
Okay, Randall, one of the things that so concerned me is all year we've been saying that, wow, look at what Chris Paul did with these guys. They're so mature. They've grown up. But in Game 5, when they had the opportunity to close out the Clippers, they laid an egg. They looked nervous. They looked scared. They looked like the moment at home was too big for them. How are they going to win a Game 5 at home when they couldn't win Game 5 in the Western Conference?
I think they just showed a little bit of their youth, as you mentioned. They can't be perfect. And Steven's article that just dropped, it said they were 12-4 in the past 16 games. And I think it's a fantastic record for a team of this caliber. They've done really well in the regular season. Obviously the playoffs is different than the regular season, but these guys are a cohesive unit and know what role they play. And if they show up to play that role, I think they're favored to win in most of these games.
Props for talking about Steven's article, and also props for saying cohesive unit, which I know Jeffrey likes to use that term as well. But Randall, so you're not concerned about the Phoenix Suns at all? You're not worried about them?
I'm not worried about their youth showing. I think Chris Paul is a leader, that he'll be able to lead the charge. And, there's not a guy like a James Harden that's going to go against what Chris Paul has been saying or what he wants to do on the floor. There's not going to be that power struggle. Him and Monte Williams know what they want to do. They know what is expected of their team. I think, like I said, everybody knows their role. And when it comes down to just that, I think it's perfect. When I tweeted out during, I forgot which game it was, but I posed the question, who is Jrue Holiday going to on the Milwaukee Bucks bench, whether it be a player or a coach, to get advice to get out of this rut or to get out of, who on the bench is going to have the most experience, the most knowledge about playing in the finals? I can't come up with anybody.
Point, but I will say Giannis was a plus 22, and so was Jrue Holiday in Game 3. So, and listen, Game 3 was the easiest game to predict, right? The teams are pretty evenly matched. You're down 2-0. You play with desperation. A young team coming in. Steven, I've tried the last 10 minutes to get you nervous about the Suns. You're still not nervous about them, are you?
Not even a little bit. You have the point guard on your team. He's at the helm. You let him do his thing. I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys were nervous when they were.
No, you bring up a great point. One of the things that shocked me, and I tweeted this when they beat the Clippers, I'm like, do you realize that Chris Paul is scoring 41 points and he's not a pure scorer? That's not what he likes to do. But Jeffrey, on the flip side, if you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan, which you are, you got to be confident right now.
Well, I'm confident for Game 4, but I just worried about Game 5 because home court, with the exception of Mavericks Clippers, home court has been really important this postseason. And the Bucks, we saw them against Brooklyn in Game 2, lose by 39 points. And even the first two games, the Suns, Game 1, the Suns pretty much wiped the Bucks away. In Games 2, the Suns got off to a great start and couldn't. And the Bucks couldn't catch up. LeBron had the best statement
game-to-game momentum in the playoffs is completely overrated. You have to take each game one by one. What I see, I think home court, as pretty much everyone in this playoffs has experienced, home court is going to be big. I see the home team winning each of the first 6 games. Game 7 is a complete toss-up. I would take the Suns to win Game 7.
Okay, Jeffrey's saying Game 7. I'm going to come out and say it right here. Put the camera on me. I had the Phoenix Sun in my Nuts and Bolts article. Out the window. I'm taking the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm taking their size, their length, their strength. The Phoenix Suns are going to be wounded warriors in Game 6 or 7. I'm taking the Bucks to win this series. Randall, who do you got?
My original prediction was Suns in 5. And if the Bucks take Game 2 or Game 4, rather, I'm going to be very nervous for the Phoenix Suns, but I'm still going with the Suns all the way through.
Eddie, take us home. Who do you got?
Definitely stick with the Bucks. My original pick was Bucks in 6, barring the first game and how they would come out firing. But I'm changing it now to Bucks in 7. They will win all home games, and that decisive Game 7, I think they'll come out and, show out and win that game. So definitely.
This is never going to happen, but how great would it be if Game 7, the Bucks are down 1, Giannis gets fouled with no time left, and he goes to shoot the free throws, and they call a violation because he took 13 seconds, and that ends Game 7 of the NBA Finals. I know that's never going to happen, but I thought that'd be funny. I'm going to put my Milwaukee Buck picture here because I think they're winning the title. I changed my pick. Guys, this was so much fun. This is the last show we're doing for the NBA. We're going to start off in a couple weeks doing the NFL chat. I want each and every one of you. I said this to you in our chats. You're more than welcome to come on. I do my shows on Sunday, and then this show will be strictly NFL for the Nuts and Bolts Sports crew. Edwin, how can we follow you?
You guys can follow me on Twitter at TheRealEddie03. Twitter handle's right there. And just make sure to follow all these lovely gentlemen as well, too. The articles coming out, the tweets that they post, the posts on Instagram, everything. Also have some articles coming out soon in the later weeks, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And once again, thank you so much for having me for the NBA postseason. It was great being on the show. Can't wait for
a lot of fun, guys. And let's just leave it with Greg. This isn't shopping for handbags. Stick with your first choices. First of all, Greg, you got to evolve in life. Just because I picked the Suns doesn't mean that, okay, now I'm watching the games. Phoenix is injured, and I evolve. You don't have to be this, when things don't work, you evolve. That's how it is. All right, Eddie, We'll see you in a couple weeks for the NFL show. Randall, same question. And real quick, do we expect anything big from the Minnesota Timberwolves via trade, via free agency? What's happening?
Absolutely. Free agency has never been our strong suit. We always have built through trades and the draft. We have Leonardo Balmaro coming in from Argentina, with Pablo Prigioni. They've been working out there, and they just played a fantastic game against Nigeria, and it was great to see Josh Okogie and Balmaro go at it. We drafted him last year, and in anticipation of us not having our pick this year, and I am beyond excited to get him. They're saying he might be the next Manu. That's obviously a high praise.
Yeah.
But even if we can have half of that, I think he would be a fantastic role player for us and a great supplemental scorer. And then, obviously the Ben Simmons deal, if it happens, let's do it. Keep D'Lo, though. Do not trade D'Angelo Russell. He's a part of our core. He's a part of our culture.
He's not a 1, right? He's a 2. He's a 2.
He's a 2 for sure. Right. But I think he'll be able to lead the charge under Cat, D'Lo, and Anthony Edwards, all being fantastic three-point shooters and three-level scorers, and also being willing passers. I just see Ben Simmons being able to fit. I wrote this in my article that's going to be dropping as soon as the technical difficulties get fixed. But he's going to be meditating up north in the Boundary Waters, finding himself, coming back down to Minneapolis, and he's going to rain hell on everyone. And I cannot wait.
So
and
let's
go for it.
You're saying 5 or 6 seed for the Timberwolves next year.
I did say that when you first pressed me about the Timberwolves and tried to get me shook. I came up with 5 being the ceiling and playoffs 100%.
Okay, and we follow you right here at Randall Gimm, correct?
Yes, Randall Gim, and this is a little side note, but I am now the owner of my own business, Gim Sports LLC.
Nice.
I'm
Tell us
doing
what
work
that's
with these.
about.
I'm doing work with these guys right here. It's called Fundamentally Sound Athletics, and what we do is we work with kids grades 3 to 8 right now, and we're doing about 15 kids a week, teaching them new sports. We did basketball last week, soccer this week, and we'll be doing golf. We will also be doing flag football, baseball. So I love coaching and giving back to the kids, and it's been so long that I've been out of the coaching game, and it's fantastic to be back.
Listen, anything you have, post on my page. I'll retweet it, get you some publicity. Really appreciate it. We'll see you in a few weeks for the NFL show.
Much love, guys. Be safe.
Thanks so much. Does a tremendous job. All right, Steven, how can we follow you? Tell people about your article. And obviously, I'm going to give you one last chance. Come to my side, Bucks and 7.
No chance. No chance. You can find me on Twitter, any social media platform right there at StayTrueS.3. In my most recent article, it should be up relatively soon. I'm talking about just letting Phoenix fans know to not panic. This game went by script in Game 3 for the Bucks to blow them out the water, which is exactly what they did. But the question with anything the Milwaukee Bucks do is it sustainable? We talked about in each series how they've let up outside of the first round series, how they've let up and let teams have a chance to give people unease about their finishing ability. So we'll see about that. That article should be up soon. I also have a lot of other content on my Twitter page breaking down player-specific stats and different intricacies of the game that I see as the series develops. So you can follow me there on Twitter. And much love and appreciation for the opportunities. I appreciate being a part of the show. Jeffrey will be at war for the next, I don't know how many days. Hopefully it's only about 4 more days and we can get this over in 5. But we'll see, man. I might come up to Milwaukee tomorrow to see that game up there.
That would be awesome. Listen, I said this and Greg doesn't want to hear it. Greg Rector, who's a huge Toronto Raptor fan, but I would say fear the what's that? Deer country or whatever they call that, Buck country is just as good as just as good as Toronto, the Raptor thing. All right, Stephen, love having you on. We'll see you in a couple weeks. All right, Jeffrey, real quick. Don't know how much you follow football or what happened, but what's your plan once basketball season ends? How can we follow you? How can we support you?
Right. Well, I've moved into more of a support role with Nutsable Sports, so be sure to follow all these fine gentlemen. Please follow me at Jeffrey Newholm. I support all of us in Nutsable Sports. And please be sure to follow our main account on Twitter. Twitter is the main place to find us at Nuts and Bolts Sports is at Nuts and Bolts SP. We got great meme, news, exciting content, anything your heart could desire. And please be sure to keep that button subscribed, ring that bell, because we're going to be right back here soon with some great NFL content.
Exactly. And listen, you can see here, I'm a huge Green Bay Packer fan. I just wrote an article. It's time for Aaron Rodgers to go. It's time for him to go, and I say that for him, and I say that for Green Bay. I want him to do a Tom Brady and go somewhere where he can win another Super Bowl. Do you agree with that?
No, because Jordan Love is terrible. We can't have Jordan Love be the quarterback. Oh, Monty, we can't have Jordan Love be the quarterback of the Packers. The dark between 1966 and 1996, the Packers did not make the Super Bowl. 1967, 1996, the Packers did not make a Super Bowl a single time. We need one more year with A-Rod for the dark days come back.
Yeah, listen, I think he's gone. I don't know if he'll be this year or next year, but as a Packer fan, I'm tired. They haven't drafted a skill position wide receiver since 2002. So, we're seeing, I mean, you see Stephon Diggs go help Josh Allen. You see out in Arizona, DeAndre Hopkins helping Kyler Murray. I understand drafting guys, but it's like they show no love to Rodgers.
Yeah, well, first of all, my understanding is the Packers didn't tell Rodgers they're going to draft a quarterback, which is not cool, guys. And they have the problem with the 2010-2011 Packers is that the defense was terrible. 2011, the Packers 15-1, set all sorts of NFL records, lost in a blowout in their first playoff game because the defense was terrible. Since then, they have
made an emphasis in drafting players defensively, and almost every single one of those picks have been a complete bust. This is an offensive-oriented game. You're absolutely right, Monty. They need to hurry up and get Rodgers his help because he can actually with Butterfinger's best buzz Scantling. You can put the ball right between the chest, right between the numbers, and that's not good enough for anyone except Cobb. So
No, I was going to say Jordan Love was fourth string on a three-man quarterback roster last year. That's all I have to say. All right, Jeffrey, we love having you. Keep us posted when you're going to the games. And I changed my pick. Bucks are going to win this series.
Well, I can only hope so, Monty. Thanks a lot for having me on.
Love having you on. Take care, Jeffrey. All right. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I want to thank everyone for subscribing, participating in the chat. This is our last NBA show for the year. We're taking off this Sunday. We'll be back, and then we're going to take one more Sunday off, and then we're going to start these Tuesday shows, all NFL with the Nuts and Bolts Sports crew, talking NFL. But we are going to take a couple of shows off here, try to retool, get my background situated, get the best guests all across the country. So again, thank you for tuning in, and the immortal words of Llewellyn Moss from No Country for Old Men, I shall return. Carla Jean.